Diego Rosa. Wow, I love that name. What do you think? Oh, oh, we're starting. Oh dear. Well, maybe I should be paying closer attention. Hey there, it's Paul Wagler here for Arise Now and the 2-minute wake up call. Well, here on this rainy Saturday, I'm enjoying watching a cycling race when it isn't a great day to be out cycling here, and just checking out what happened from a race that was, I think, 3 weeks ago, the Strada Bianche. And so anyway, I wanted to share a few thoughts with you, though, that came from a memorial service, a celebration of life that Angie and I attended last Saturday for my cousin Amy. Amy was a couple years older than myself, and she had had a 4-year battle with cancer, and she passed away earlier this month. And so we were at this service to celebrate her life and remember her, and it was just really encouraging to hear of the wonderful person that she was, and how she affected so many people. And I know that her legacy will live on in many, many ways. And so there was two things that really stood out for me through that service. The one was that as Amy was battling cancer, she wouldn't say, "I'm dying from cancer," because Amy was a very positive person, always trying to find a positive way to express things and to encourage people. So she would say, "I'm living with a life-threatening disease." And I thought, wow, that is really a nice, encouraging way to view, an encouraging outlook to have in the midst of a very difficult journey. And so she would say, "I'm living with a life-threatening disease." And so the other thing that was cause for a lot of pondering in my life, or in my heart, as we came away from that service, was a quote of Amy's that she really loved. One of her favorite quotes was, "You can't do this alone, but you alone must do this." And when I heard that, I thought, wow, that is really profound, because it sounds like two polar opposites. You can't do this alone on this hand, but you alone must do this. So which is it? Is it you can't do it alone, or you alone must do it? It's actually not either or, it's both and. It's one of the great paradoxes of life, and sometimes we encounter those where it's two opposite things, but yet they both come together in a way that helps to bring clarity to our journey. And so after the service, as I was chatting with Amy's sister Rose, who was one of her dear friends and her neighbor, they lived close together in Toronto, we were talking about this quote, and Rose said, yes, because in the end it's just you and God. And I was just like, wow, yeah, that is the way it is. And we can't do that part of it with somebody else. In the end, we each stand before God. And so somehow Amy took comfort from that knowing she couldn't do this alone, but she alone must do certain things, certain parts of the journey. And it made me think of this cycling race. These guys enter the race as a team. You can't enter the race by yourself, but yet you alone must do it. You have to pedal your own bike. If you cross the finish line, you do it on your own. You don't get credit for finishing the race just because your team did. You have to cross the finish line. And so I was reminded of these verses from 1 John chapter 4, where it says this in verse 16, "And so we know and rely on the love God has for us. Whoever lives in love lives in God, and God in him. In this way we have confidence on the day of judgment." And I was like, wow, we can have confidence on the day of judgment? How is that possible? Well, a few verses earlier, it gives us an indication, some more information that helps us bring understanding to this. And it says in verse 9 of 1 John 4 that this is how God showed his love amongst us. He sent his one and only Son into the world that you and I, that we can live through him. This is love, not that we love God, but that he loved us and sent his Son as an atoning sacrifice for our sins. And so, Jesus is the demonstration of God's love. He gave himself up for you and I, that we could find life, that we could be cleansed of our sins. He was the perfect sacrifice for our sins, so we could be restored into that relationship with God, so we could live in that love with God, and he could live in us. And then in this way we will have confidence on the day of judgment. You can't do this alone, but you alone must do this. We each need to make that decision that we want to follow Jesus. We want to live in that love. And then when we stand before him, we can have confidence on that day. You can't do this alone, but you alone must do this. Well, a few things for you to ponder and think about this day. And until we meet again, stay awake and stay alert.